Modern cosmology is built on the assumption of a dead, infinite void. In this model, space is a vacuum that extends without end, allowing for unlimited physical travel in any direction. Ancient traditions described a different geometry, the cosmic egg. This model presents the universe as an enclosed world system, defined by specific protective boundaries that separate the inner domain from the raw field outside. By the mid-20th century, the debate between these models moved from philosophy into physical testing. Modern nations gained the technological capability to reach the edges of the map and probe the nature of these boundaries. The Cold War transformed the sky and the poles into strategic objectives. Military command sought total dominance over physical space, treating the supposed void as a new theater for conquest. Two massive operations were launched to define these limits: Operation High Jump, which pushed toward the absolute horizontal edge of the Earth, and Operation Fishbowl, which targeted the absolute vertical extreme of the sky. These exercises were standard military maneuvers in name, but in practice, they functioned as brute force collisions with the architectural limits described in ancient mythology. In 1946, Admiral Byrd led Operation High Jump to the absolute southern edge of the human map. The mission was tasked with charting territory that lay beyond the reach of conventional navigation. The scale of the deployment suggests a mission of high strategic value. A naval fleet of warships and aircraft carriers moved thousands of miles into the Antarctic ice, establishing a massive logistical base for the outward push. To find the terminal edge of the terrain, the fleet utilized constant aerial reconnaissance. Pilots were ordered to scout the furthest geographic coordinates reachable by flight. As the aircraft moved deeper into the frozen interior, fixed navigational references began to fail. Compasses drifted, and pilots reported vast expanses where the terrain refused to conform to standard gridded mapping. Ancient polar mythology, such as the traditions of Hyperborea, describes this extreme ice edge as a cosmic threshold rather than a simple geographic border. These myths read the southern limit as the point where the physical world ends. High Jump confirmed that the physical map eventually reaches a terminal coordinate. The ice ring functions as a hard limit on the human domain, marking the edge where the mechanical world ceases to expand. While High Jump tested the horizontal limits, Operation Fishbowl targeted the vertical extreme. The objective was to determine what occurs when technology pushes straight up through the atmosphere. In 1962, the military began detonating high-altitude nuclear weapons in the upper atmosphere. These tests were conducted at altitudes where the atmosphere was thought to transition into an empty vacuum. The military launched nuclear missiles vertically into the sky, firing directly into the presumed void. The sheer force of these detonations was intended to probe the physical properties of the upper limit. In the Beyond the Shell model, these explosions were brute force radar pings. When the pulse of energy hit the upper limit, sensors recorded a rebound effect, as if the signal had struck a solid substrate. The detonation emitted a frequency pulse that mapped a structured, protective interface, revealing a celestial shell reacting to the intrusion. These vertical tests suggest that the sky is not an empty vacuum, but a structured interface that reacts with resistance when technology attempts to cross its boundary. These military operations provide a new context for ancient sky manuals. What we once read as mythic stories are actually compressed instructions for how the cosmic boundary operates. This points toward an observer safety architecture. A finite human nervous system has a specific mathematical bottleneck. It can only process a limited amount of information before the signal destroys the receiver. The universe is a field of infinite signals. To allow human experience, these must be filtered into organized rhythmic pulses. The firmament and ice boundaries act as this compression system, shielding the observer inside from raw external data streams. The shell is the ultimate safety protocol. It is the rate-limiting filter that makes a survivable world possible by preventing the mind from being overwhelmed by cosmic excess. The limits of our world enforce these boundaries automatically. They resist military intrusion because they are the rules that define the domain of human experience. When military forces attempted to push past the poles and the sky, they did not find new territory. They collided with the translation layer that allows human life to exist.